All right, we're back, and in this segment, we're going to talk about how grammar is acquired. Now, first off, a definition. Grammar is the structures, the techniques, and the rules that communicate meaning in our language. For most of us, our first language, we are pretty clueless about the grammar. I mean, we may have had to sit through some English classes where we were supposed to figure out, prefixes and suffixes and, ing endings and ed endings and things. But long before that, long before anybody tried to explain how our language is actually constructed, we were using language, and we were correctly applying grammar. So the fact that they make us sit through lessons on how to correctly apply grammar when we're already speaking in a way that other people can understand is kind of funny if you think about it. But it helps us to learn other languages and things, so I guess it's useful. Anyway, so part of grammar is, how to structure a sentence. How to put together words into a string of, a sentence or a prose passage so that listeners or readers can understand what you're talking about. And we do this so much on the fly. We don't even think about, okay, I just said a noun, so the next thing needs to be a verb. Like, we don't think things like that, but we inherently, naturally know to put the nouns typically in front of the verbs, and that if the noun doesn't come before the verb, it's because it's a certain circumstance and things like that. We just inherently know how to do that, and we started picking that up in the first year of life. The use of prefixes and suffixes. This is really, for me, the prefixes and suffixes is the most remarkable part of figuring out language, because if you've ever listened to somebody speak a language that you don't speak, you can't even tell where one word ends and the next one begins because you don't understand what they're saying. And so it just sounds like a long chain of noise. When I look back at my recordings before I post them, I can see the little up-down lines that indicate my voice, and it's like nonstop up, down, up, down, up, down. Like I'm talking constantly. And there's really no break between the words. So not only do infants figure out where one word leaves off and the next one begins, they also figure out regularities such as putting the prefix pre on the beginning of a word means that it came before, and that if you put ed on the end of a word, it means it happened in the past. And right, they not only can figure out where the words are, they can figure out the parts of the words. So prefixes and suffixes contribute to grammar. And then, like I've talked about since we were talking about infancy, intonation and emphasis is also part of our grammar rules. We know that, for example, if we want to ask a question in the U.S., we put a up rise at the end of the sentence. Do you want to go to the park? That way a person knows that a question's been asked, right? Because it goes up at the end. In other languages, that it's actually a dropping sound at the end of a question. Intonation is important. Emphasis. Like, if you really want to emphasize a particular word, you say it differently than if it's just the rest of the supporting words. All of those things. So we talked in infancy about the different theories about how language is acquired. And we talked about Skinner arguing that language is acquired through reinforcement. We get what we want faster if we use words. And we talked about Chomsky and his idea that there's an innate language acquisition device that helps us to, pick up the universal grammar, the whatever's being spoken. But what's really kind of hard to imagine is, how would you ever test which of those theories is more accurate? How would you ever test that? Well, luckily, psychologists are pretty smart. So this piece that's going to come up next in the playlist will show you how they can answer the question, do children ultimately apply rules on the fly, or are they just repeating what they've been reinforced for in the past? So enjoy that video, and I will see you on the other side.